Okay, so tonight what we're going to look at is a book by Sailor Bob.
Oh, I think I'm in the wrong meeting. I'm sorry. It's okay.
It's
I thought
okay.
it was the East Hampton group.
All right, well, join us if you
Thank you. Thank you.
So it's going to be from Sailor Bob Adamson, and the name of the book is Presence Awareness. Presence Awareness.
Now,
So
Sailor Bob was actually a student of Nisargadatta's, and we've also read some of John Wheeler, and John Wheeler was a student of Sailor Bob Adamson. And we had the good fortune to meet Sailor Bob when we were in Australia about 3 years ago, 4 years
maybe,
ago.
yeah.
And we attended one of his groups and then shared a meal with him. So let's hear what he has to say.
Okay. So we're going to, let me just put on my reading glasses. Just a minute.
Always a good idea.
Okay, so the questioner says to him, somehow what we have talked about hasn't struck home. I don't seem to have abandoned the I, the me. It hasn't been challenged substantially or cut away at the knees. That needs to be done. That needs to be challenged, it seems. Bob, drop everything we have talked about and thought about. Okay. Bob, is there awareness here now? Yes. We immediately want to rush into the thought or the thinking because that awareness is no thing to the mind. The mind is full of sensations and reasoning, and this, that, and the other. The mind is displaying in one way or another with thoughts, feelings, and emotions. But cut all that away. When you cut all that away, it is clear, it is empty, it is lucid, and it is really vibrating there, pulsing through you right now as that livingness. Now he's talking about awareness. The questioner, all of us are experiencing that awareness. Well, we are that awareness now. Yes, you are that awareness. The focus needs to be from knowing that you are awareness instead of focusing out there on what has been appearing on that mind and all the rest. That is what we are conditioned to do. Just come back to what you really are. Come back to that awareness, which is no thing. Realize that. We are used to the sensations. That's why we continue to look out there for bigger and better sensations. Or we imagine there is some strange big bang or something that happens with enlightenment or realization. We think in the future I'll attain it or I'll get it. There's all sorts of imagination of what will be like. That is what we continue to look for. We never stop with it, but stay with the subtleness of it, the subtleness of awareness. Without any sense of person there, just being, just sitting there being right now. Drop all ideas of I. What can you say about it without going in your mind? So here he's saying, without any sense of feeling that there's a me there, just right now, he's saying, if we drop all the ideas of what the me is, of what the I is, what can you say about awareness? I can't say anything about it. You cannot say anything without a thought, but you are hearing, oh yes. You are seeing, yes. So the functioning is still happening without any mental image. That's right. There is an awareness or a sense of presence there. What do you need to do to acquire that? Oh, well, you don't do anything. You don't. No, you don't, says Bob. It is there of itself, self-arising, self-knowing, timelessly and ceaselessly, without a thought. What conditioning is there? Without a thought, what conditioning is there? Go back to that without a thought. You are just that pure seeing, pure hearing, pure functioning. Isn't that so? Yes. Where is your conditioning apart from thinking? There isn't any. That is right. People want to analyze and get rid of their conditioning. The way to get rid of your conditioning is full stop right here, right now, without thinking about it. There is no conditioning whatsoever. Just come back and settle with that. See the truth. See the fact of that. Be the fact of that. It is futile trying to clutch onto it or latch onto it with a concept or a word or an idea or a thought. But basically, you can't get out of it awareness. You can go back in the past as far as you like, or anticipate or imagine the future as far as you like. You can create for yourself a heaven or hell in the mind, or a realization, or an enlightenment, or a resurrection. You can create all these things in the mind, but have you ever left that presence awareness? He said, you can't get out of it. You can't get out of it because that's what you fundamentally are.
And overlaid on that is all the conditioning.
That's right.
And we're all tuned so tightly into the conditioning that we overlook the background.
Well, because as he said, the foreground has a lot of drama, a lot of sensations, a lot of that which pulls you in and sucks you in. This is very subtle. Awareness, your true nature. Awareness is the changeless background upon which change appears. So we keep looking and getting all involved with what changes without looking back at what doesn't change. So it's always such a good question to ask oneself, what is it in me that has never changed? What is it that has never changed? From the time I was 3, 13, 23, 33, 103. What has not changed? Awareness. The same awareness that's here right now. Bob says, all right. He says, now, what's wrong with right now if you are not thinking about it? I'll repeat that. What's wrong with right now if you are not thinking about it? Questioner, right now is just fine. Bob, right now is fine without thinking about it. You must realize from that, that thought is the only problem you can have, isn't it? Yes. You have been here before, and you have heard that what you are seeking, you already are. If you go around here, there, and everywhere trying to get something, it's a futile effort. Are you aware right now? You are aware of presence. I'm aware right now. Do you think it is any more than that? That is it? Yes, that is it. But what? Well, the next minute I'll be caught up in stuff. But can you live that next minute now? No. So in the now, you are projecting about a future time when you will be caught up in it. See how you trap yourself. Well, yes, but it's based on past experience, isn't it? Yes, that becomes the reference point. We refer to everything from that past experience. But that is already dead now. You can't live the next minute right now. You can't live the past minute or past years or anything past right now. You might recall them. In recalling them, they are not the actual thing that happened, are they? They are only a recollection of them, which your mind has embellished a bit or forgotten part of. It is not actually as it was. Well, in my work, I need to reflect on things sometimes. In that way, says Bob, you are using memory. Memory is there and you think, well, I guess I'll do it this way. You are using memory. But the other way, memory is using you. You think, I haven't got it, or I have to get something, or I'm no good, or whatever. That is when it puts the limitations and boundaries on you. Have a look at it. You recall something and you say, I shouldn't have done that. But can you change it? Why beat yourself up about what you could have, should have, shouldn't have done? Realize that there is no personal doer of it. Who was the you, the idea, the entity that could or could not do it? Questioner, it is really hard to get that concept of no one being here, along with saying, next time I won't do that. So I adjust my behavior in the future. I really find it hard to let go of the thought that I had a bit of control here. Have a look at it. You are seeing right now. Am I seeing? Bob, yes, you are seeing everything around you. Oh, around the room, you mean? Yes. You are hearing this voice, other things. Are your eyes saying to you, I see? Well, my actual eyes aren't, no. Are your actual ears saying, I hear? No, but my brain is. Oh, is it? Can your brain give you any thought at all? Is your brain saying, I think? Well, it's happening in there, points to her head. Is it? Well, it feels like it, but is it? Have a look and see if you can find out where it is happening. These are the things you have got to look at. You know, whereabouts is it happening in there? Where in your head is it? Is this me? Well, it could be happening out there somewhere. Never mind trying to conceptualize or hypothesize where it could be happening. Have a look and see where your thoughts are happening in there. Well, I imagine it travels along a little neuron. When you close your eyes, another questioner says, and you look for it, it still feels like it's coming from your head. Bob, does it? Well, that is what you imagine, yes. Bob, all right. If that is what you imagine, where are you imagining it from? Oh, nowhere. That just shows that there is no center or reference point that is really concrete. There is no place you can point to and say, this is where it all is. All the brain is an instrument that breaks down that pure intelligence energy. It is like a transformer in a record player or something. Instead of playing at 240 volts, it breaks it down to 12 volts. Otherwise, it would blow it apart. The brain is just transforming that intelligence energy into thoughts. It is not thinking. So it's just a transmitter. Yes. And it's just the same as your kidneys, your liver, and your heart, and all the rest of it. It is the intelligence energy going through them that is allowing them to do their job, to do what they were meant to do. The brain doesn't think. Go back to the seeing. Does the thought, I see, does that see? Does the thought see? Yes. No. The eye doesn't say, I see. The ear doesn't say, I hear. The thought, I see, which is translating what is happening, doesn't see. The thought, I hear, doesn't hear. Those thoughts are just translating what is happening, the actual functioning. You are constantly seeing, even while you're listening to what I'm saying. Nothing is there saying, I'm seeing, I'm seeing, I'm seeing, while you're listening to me, is there? No. But the seeing is happening. Nothing is saying, I'm hearing, I'm hearing, I'm hearing, while you're looking around the room. You are still hearing the cars go by. That seeing and hearing, that functioning is happening before the thought. Oh, I think somebody might have to mute. Something else is coming. That seeing and hearing, that functioning is happening before the thought. If you look, the thought, I see, can't see. The thought, I hear, can't hear. The thought, I am aware, is not the awareness, is it? No. The thought, I think, is not thinking, the thinking, no. So the thought, me, is also just a translation. It is just not what you really are. That me, that image that you have got about yourself I am so-and-so and I do this and all the rest of it. The image you have about yourself hasn't got one jot of power to do anything. That is the self-image or self-center that you have about yourself. Questioner, it is really just hard to sort of make sense then why we ever do anything. Well, we've got to feed ourselves so that our bodies stay alive, Bob. But that's the point. It is hard to say why we ever do anything. You don't do anything. Have a look. Go back before that thinking was happening. As far back as you remember. When did you start to remember? At about 2 or 3 years old? Prior to that, you were just functioning spontaneously and effortlessly. The natural state is just going on. Everything is going on quite naturally. From then on, everything is acquired or learned. That is what I call the acquired mind. But prior to that, the natural state is functioning. Now you are breathing right now. If you were in control of it, the first thing you would be saying is, let me make sure I take the next breath. Make sure my heart has got another beat in it. Make sure I'm able to digest my food and replace the cells in the body. But why don't you think of any of those things? Aren't they happening effortlessly and spontaneously? It is just the same as a thought arising. It arises effortlessly and spontaneously. Then you believe or think that I chose my thoughts or I create that thought. It has got no power to do any of those things. To that I thought, we add events and experiences, and we form a mental picture of what we believe we are. It is only a mental image based on past events and experiences. Well, we've all got different past experiences, Bob, yes? So you form an image around that. Oh, I can't do that. Or I shouldn't be doing that. This depends on what we consider as good or bad, which is based on past events and experience. That's the only way you can judge it. That mental picture is what we call the self-center or the ego. Excuse me. But it is powerless of itself. If that intelligence energy, that life force, that livingness wasn't there, how many thoughts could you have? Probably none. You would be dead. Yes, you wouldn't have any thoughts, would you? You wouldn't have any thoughts. You wouldn't have any feelings. You wouldn't have any emotions.
Excuse
None
me,
of
are there assigned seats or? Oh, okay. I'm just waiting for my friends.
Uh,
Thank
we-
you.
Please just mute. Excuse me, please, Polly, can you
You know
mute
what I
them?
really want?
Tell me,
A pastrami sandwich.
that I can't help.
Okay. Now, you wouldn't have any thoughts, would you? You wouldn't have any feelings. You wouldn't have any emotions. None of that would be there. That thinking that you believe to be you hasn't got any independent nature. So in other words, we are not separate. We are not a separate entity from this awareness. We think we're separate from this awareness. And so that makes us feel that we're separate from each other, from who we basically are. But we're not. Realize that thought has come up spontaneously, effortlessly, and intuitively. If it is acted on in the moment, before it is referred to the me of past memory, your life would probably be a lot more effortless and easy. But we have learned to disregard that spontaneous functioning, and we refer it to the me of memory. Well, the questioner says, I wouldn't dive into a shallow pool because my past experience tells me that it's not a good idea. Bob, yes, that is intelligence, but it's the same thing as anything else, isn't it? Yes, says Bob, but there is no personal doer there. I'll stop here. So, what did you hear?
Well, it's interesting because so then language becomes just a means to communicate about our natural state functioning,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And but if thoughts are completely random, right? That's what he
Mhm,
said. There's
mhm. Spontaneous.
right, they're
Mhm.
random and spontaneous.
Mhm.
Yet there is some organizing principle, because if all thoughts were random and spontaneous, how do we account for the apparent order in the world? We have an orderly world in the sense that there are institutions, traffic laws, people cooperate their activities. If all thoughts were random, one would expect to see a chaotic field.
Well, but what do those thoughts appear on? They're appearing on this background of awareness,
Yes.
which doesn't change.
That's not
Which is-
addressing my point.
Oh, I'm
though.
sorry. All right.
I
What is
agree.
that?
They appear on a background of awareness. They are, but so if my thoughts are completely random, why do they seem to have an order to them? My life is a reflection of my thoughts to a large degree. Well, my life is not chaotic and disordered, generally speaking.
Yeah, but for some people it is.
Okay, but for the majority of the people, but we're not all living. We were once hunter-gatherers. We're now in a technological age. Doesn't that bespeak of some kind of orderly progression?
Yes, but all thought doesn't refer back necessarily to the me, does it?
No.
So there are people that are able to witness the arising of the thought
Yes.
and not refer it back to me.
Yes.
And so are able to deal with the situation at hand
Okay,
in
hold
an
on.
orderly way.
Oh, no, so maybe a better answer would be yes. There is an unfathomable, unimaginable multitude of thoughts that occur in any given second by the species globally.
Right.
And many of them are chaotic and dysfunctional, but I guess what I see is the result of the functional ones.
Well, it's all held together. So in the big picture, there is some kind of a unified whole
That's what I'm pointing to. That's right. There's
in the
some kind-
big picture.
Now, also, what of the person with Alzheimer's?
What
So I walk into a nursing home, and there sits my father who has Alzheimer's. And I say to him, "Good morning." And he says to me, "Who are you? Do I know you?"
Right.
So I wonder, is the Alzheimer's person having thoughts, or are they just completely have lost their
Now,
memory.
I wouldn't know
They have
that,
awareness. They're
but
obviously
that's
aware.
what I was going to
But are
say.
their thoughts moving through that
I
awareness?
don't know enough about that disease to comment on that.
Because what he's pointing us toward is almost like when you say be in your natural state, sit quietly, be in your natural state, let functioning happen. Don't get in the way of it. Don't attribute it to a center.
Right.
Well, then I would be sitting there, I would imagine, much like, so that would mean sitting here and not having thoughts arise.
Why? You might,
Yes,
You
the thoughts
might,
might arise,
but you
not
wouldn't,
follow
you
them.
wouldn't
Yeah, you not follow them.
refer them back to you and act on,
Right. Right. Any thoughts out there?
I was thinking about the universe it obeys natural laws, right?
right,
Planets rotate around the sun,
that's right.
for example. But yet there's also the law of entropy, where things sort of tend to go towards a natural state of disorder as well.
Mhm.
The law of entropy I think of as sort of a state of impermanence. Things are always in flux, always changing.
Right,
As much as you try to organize your life and organize various things, the overall effect is that it will be impermanent and be disrupted.
yes, well, I think his point is that you don't organize, you're not doing it. There is no you to do this. So whatever is happening through you as an instrument. However, in the big picture of things, there is order. There must be, because otherwise wouldn't everything just be falling apart? So just like out in the universe, it's the same thing with these bodies. There is an order to how the body is working, and it is working, as he said, without us thinking about it. We are not making our hearts beat.
Right.
So that's so interesting. That's so important. And what he's saying here, it seems to me, is that every time you refer to I'm hearing, I'm seeing, you're strengthening the center, this me. Because actually there's hearing, there's seeing, there's doing, there's functioning. You know, Jean Klein always said, consciousness functions. There's functioning. So how much easier would life be if we didn't constantly refer everything back to this me? And we were just open and aware and consciously aware and just doing, you know, the being is the doing, what needs to be done or not. Maybe nothing needs to be done.
So who is it who went through veterinary school, or who is it who did the PhD in clinical psychology and all the training after that? Who is that?
Yes.
And that's what becomes so difficult to sort out, because it seems so real that I had to do it. I had to have that drive, that motivation to get the degree, or it would not have occurred on its own.
That's right. But maybe that motivation
Would have occurred.
came to that particular body mind, because that particular body mind maybe was meant to do that, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But it seems to follow that. And can't that be, or really question, can that be without a personal me? I think it can.
Well,
It seemed-
we spent like Bob, like Sailor Bob, when he started, or the beginning of the thing, when he points to, from a very early age, you learn not to do that. Naturally, when you're born, when you pop out of the womb, you do that. You do that for a certain amount of time because you haven't learned any other way. You're just reacting to your senses. You're hungry, you're hungry. You're happy, you laugh. You're uncomfortable, you scream. You react to the moment. You never think
Yes,
about getting a bottle. You want a bottle now. You're not thinking about
right.
the bottle 2 hours from now. And so, but like says, we take a turn. Humanity has learned we're taking a wrong turn, if you will, where we start identifying with a separation between that and creating this thing like Bob, who goes to college and goes to veterinary school and becomes a whiz at Plum Island and all kinds of things, Tasmania, all kinds of adventures. We get away from the concept of just being. I think what it is that, you've got an ego, and there's a lot of discussion about getting rid of. You can't. You're with it. You're with memory. Your ego is memory. It's a memory that you have. You can't get rid of memory. You've got to learn how to live with it. And you've got to learn what it does.
Or,
It's
or,
or
or, as he's suggesting, if we come back to that changeless background of awareness, if
You
we
can-
can keep coming back to that, that begins to put a pin in this image of a me.
it's that understanding, right? The understanding that, it's a you can't think without awareness. There is nothing without awareness. First there is awareness, and then you sort of mess
Right.
around with it and create a center, create a me,
That's
which more or less splits that
Right.
awareness apart.
Right.
It creates a separation between what you are and what you think you are.
You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to just read these few paragraphs from him, from Bob, Sailor Bob. This chapter is called Livingness is Happening. And this is Bob talking. I have been living this for over 25 years now, but I think this is an older book. He's more than that. All sorts of things have happened to me. This hasn't been a smooth sailing. I lost the farm and everything like that. I got broke. I got very sick. All sorts of things happened, but all the way through, there was always that underlying sense of well-being. You do the appropriate things when necessary to try and right the situation. But all that mental anguish, where years before I had the understanding, I'd have blown my brains out. It just went along and it turned itself around. It's amazing to watch the effortlessness happening. It turned it around and brought me back down here. I was able to start talking again. I was up on the farm and there wasn't that many people coming. From that, people started to come. Even then, when we thought things were going right, we had the health food shops and got out of them. That is when the slump came. We had our money invested on first mortgage and the whole lot went. We were left with nothing again. The same thing again. It wasn't a seeming situation that would have got me into all the psychological trauma or dramas. That eventually turned itself around again in amazing ways. The livingness happens. It is just the same as it is with aging this body right now. It is happening. From this point of view, I couldn't care less whether it goes tonight or it lasts another 20 years. It doesn't make any difference. It is just like the dream is happening. The pains and aches come into it, the aging process, etc. But there is that underlying sense of well-being that everything is okay. You can only put it negatively. There is nothing wrong. It doesn't matter if there are seemingly wrong things going on. So he gave you a little personal.
Being recorded.
So life is happening. It's happening. And I just think it's so interesting how he said it just turned itself around.
Life is happening, and it might not have turned itself around,
Right.
right? He might have stayed broke and became an alcoholic and spent his life on a Skid Row ghetto and died a miserable death. That's
That's a
life
happening
also,
too.
right?
That's right.
Yeah, Evie and Paul, I have a good friend who in a earlier life, she was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And she pulled herself from a very, very low point and basically rescued herself from death. And when she tells me the story, she knows I believe in non-duality, that sort of thing. So the last thing I want to do is say, but who pulled themselves from the brink of death? That sort of thing.
Right.
The compassionate thing is to say, oh yes, what a wonderful thing, and I'm so happy you did. We would all be at a loss if you had not done that. But how do you approach people like that with these kind of views? You just listen.
Of course, you don't.
Don't
You don't want to
argue
convince.
non-duality.
No. You don't want to convince anybody of anything.
Yeah.
Some people are really open to questioning, and that's when you can pose a question.
And for her story, she obviously believes that she found a strong enough sense of self to pull herself in a right direction, and that's to be commended.
Yes.
At her level of thinking and belief system, that's to be reinforced.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right. Because if this non-dual teaching is about losing this me because one realizes there really never was a me, then before you can do that, you better have a very strong sense of me.
Okay, that's the evolution then. You need to have a strong I before you can let go of it.
That's right.
Bill, they say, you have to first find yourself. Once having found yourself, then the next possible step would be to lose yourself. But it's predicated on first finding yourself.
Yeah.
A functioning self.
Well, thanks. I've often wondered, should I take a different tact, but
No.
it just seemed I should not.
Right.
No. You want to encourage that sense of inner strength that she has.
Yeah.
Right. So anything else from tonight's reading? Anything stand out?
Well, I guess it's always also difficult because if the life force is just functioning, and I guess it's a multiplex universe, cosmos full of all sorts of diverse stories. So yeah, some people are living under terrible conditions.
Oh, yes.
Right? It's a veritable smorgasbord with misery on one end and somewhat momentary happiness on the other. But there are people who are living unfortunate stories. I guess that goes back to, Bill, what you were saying, that there's a entropy and
Well, there's an order. and
order
then
and
there's-
a disorder, right? The mixture.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Well, I guess that's the place for compassion.
What is,
When seeing functions,
ah,
in the seeing functioning observes the misery,
yes,
compassion comes into play.
yes.
I
Oh,
don't,
yes.
right? I don't walk past a woman who's fallen down in the street. I help her up. Or within my means, I
Yes,
help a homeless person
yes, yes.
or an animal in distress.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Yeah. Well, when there's pure functioning and it's not relating back to a self-center, as you
Right,
said,
right.
then there's no, you're not doing it for any kind of personal
Right,
glory
right,
or
right,
because you're a do-gooder.
Of course.
That is
Mhm.
love and that is compassion.
Mhm,
And that must be our natural state.
mhm.
How could it not be?
That's
And,
right.
and innocence.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe it speaks to uh, paying attention or realizing what happens in the moment, and that what happens in the moment, that's about as close as I can get to, because what happens in the moment isn't being processed by the eye. It's that second or two later, or
Yes.
a period of time after it happens, that I have been continuously in my life processing it through my center, and then it interprets what I have seen.
That's right.
And but
That's right.
the blessing is that awareness. I'm aware of that. I'm aware that that happens. Now, how often I can do it and how hard I want to work, sometimes yes, sometimes no. It goes again with sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But that's the way it is. The way it is there. It's not unchanging. It's that the conditioning doesn't allow you to see it. And my conditioning doesn't allow me not to be influenced by my conditioning. It usually takes over. And then it's then I'm dipping into memory to run the ship.
But that's just it. That's right. That's right.
Instead of just steering a course, looking straight ahead and saying, okay, that's
yes.
where, look at the sails to determine where you want to sail, rather than let your thinking go to where you want to steer.
Well, that's just it. So as soon as we move away, then we're no longer in the moment, although we're still really in the moment, but the mind is in the past, or the mind is in the future. The thoughts are in the past, or the thoughts are in the future, but it's happening in the moment.
Yeah.
Right? You never get out of that moment.
But your thinking, your thinking doesn't allow you to stay in a moment. The thinking takes over the moment and dictates how it's going to see. It takes it over.
Well, it takes it over by judging, by forming an opinion. However, that's right. But awareness sees that movement. Awareness is aware of the movement of thought.
Yep.
So as soon as it's aware of that movement of thought, dwelling on something past or projecting something into the future, then that's when the plug gets pulled on it. and it keeps having to be pulled.
But there are times when the awareness doesn't break through. I mean, the awareness is there, but I'm not aware that I'm aware.
Right. Because you're all wrapped up now in what,
In my
what-
thinking.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Unbelievable. Powerful, powerful stuff.
Yes, but it's so beautiful that we can see it, that it can be seen. We have the equipment.
Right.
If you are aware of being aware, is there a person that's doing
No,
this?
that's right. No,
It's just pure awareness.
just pure awareness. Just the light. The light shining on the movement of the thought. Yeah. And so you gently pull yourself back. We can do it. It can be done.
Well, we've come to the end of our time. We look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you
for
so
joining.
much for joining.
Okay,
Thank
have a
you.
good week.
Great.
Bye.
Have a good week.
Keep your umbrellas handy.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Buonasera.
When you're